in many ways, Harry Potter is a transition between the childhood into the early teenage years. But no, yes, I definitely I want to explore something. Yeah, I mean, the more that you live, the more that you get into certain experiences, even though there are certain things that they are permanent throughout your whole life. Even if those experiences, they change shape and they change also the masks that we wear to cover them.
Welcome to Locarno Meets, a movie podcast brought to you by UBS from the Locarno Film Festival. Alfonso Cuarón is one of the most significant filmmakers alive. He's an Oscar winner, he's an innovator, he's a visionary, and he came here to sit down and discuss his career and the problem with oners. Alfonso, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
You're here to accept a Lifetime Achievement Award, so it feels like a fair moment to revisit your work. Do you kind of look back at your career as a sort of curated legacy, or is it something far more random than that?
I don't think too much about my legacy. I just trying to move on and see what's next. And yes, but at the same time, I would be cheating if I thought that that is not random. There's a random element to it, and maybe that's maybe it's a flaw. I don't know, but it comes out of being a very, very, very eclectic cinephile. I think that tainted me a lot, and I mean, when I feel like, like the filmmakers I deeply admire are more monothematic, more monothematic, then I think of Howard Hawks or Kubrick. Says, well, I can always aspire to be, to reach a level of amazing cinematic experiences as they had.
With that in mind, then, Kubrick would kind of look back and look at the different genres and say, right, I'll just do a totemic war movie, then a totemic comedy, then a totemic horror film. Do you look now at your back catalogue and say, how have I not done XYZ type of movie?
No, I don't think it works like that. I think I guess that the experience of doing a new film, it just happens by itself. It's as if the film begs to exist, and then I do. And some films, in my case, appear from different reasons. Some are all ideas that I just put on the shelf, and years later I revisit. Some other are stuff that come in your way, and you find that you can make your own movie out of whatever comes your way. Or and some other films, they have to manifest because they save your life. You find yourself in a situation, and then you just have to make a film, and hopefully the film will project that situation.
Up until about 24 hours ago, I was going to sit here and say, it's been 6 years since Roma, why haven't you made anything? And then yesterday, your Apple TV show was announced. How did that project come about? Is it something that did you approach them, or did they bring you the project?
No. I made a deal with Apple to produce television, and my only commitment was to write and direct a pilot. It's something that is very common nowadays, of filmmakers to do a pilot and move on. But I always been very, very intrigued about two things. One is there's like a longer form that filmmakers that I deeply admire had explored. And I'm talking people like Fassbinder with Alexander Platz, or Berman with Sins of a Marriage, von Trier's with The Kingdom, or Bruno Del Bonel with Le Petit Coin Coin, and of course David Lynch with Twin Peaks. And have always been kind of intrigued about it. But another thing is, I have never done in my life a film that is overtly narrative.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, I should try it because I don't know how to do it. And I guess that was the point of departure. And so I wrote the pilot. Once that I wrote the pilot, there was a part of me that I felt that it was incomplete. Like I didn't feel comfortable, so I just kept on writing. And I wrote the seven chapters, we call them. And then once that it was there, I just decided to direct it. But I warned them. I said, I don't know how to direct TV. And I think that at this stage, I don't want to learn. I'm not interested of learning that specific thing.
So a 7-hour movie then?
I said, if I do it, I have to do it as a film with all the problems that it will entail to you, meaning to Apple. And they were very generous, says, yes, go for it. So I put my crew together, including Chivo, Emmanuel Lubezki, the cinematographer, and together, because he has different narrative levels and voices and a specific language, visual languages for each one of them, we decided that to create bigger contrast. And I think it was Chivo who came with the idea. It was to bring two different DPs. And so we brought Bruno Del Bonel, that we love and we always admire, but also we love as a person. And a lot of members crew members that I have worked in the past. And so also it was, when I wrote, it was the lockdown. So for me, it was very easy to keep on writing.
Therapeutic, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to have Cate Blanchett in it, and amazing to see Kevin Kline.
I wrote it just thinking of Kate and thinking, if Kate doesn't want to do this, probably I won't want to do this. And I'm grateful she did it. She's incredible.
Of course. But Kevin Kline, who's not that often on our screens anymore, I was so excited to see him back.
Well, part of my film formation, the mid-season of my, it was populated by the films with Kevin Kline. And I always loved Kevin Kline. And his versatility. You could see him doing A Fish Called Wanda.
I think that's top 10 favorite ever performances.
Just because of that, I said, okay, one day I want to work with this guy. But he also did Sophie's Choice. It was Sophie's Choice, right?
Yeah.
And so you said, okay, I think I would love to see him and talking with Kate, because Kate was very involved in the process. She was like a big collaborator. We're talking about, it would be interesting to bring for that person someone that is not an immediate recognition from someone that you see very often.
Sure.
And and then we thought Kevin, and Kevin took the part, and in an amazing way, he's American. He played a British, so it was great. Yeah.
You're a blockbuster artist, I would consider you. As in, you're steeped in art house film. Your work is deeply artistic, but Gravity made $700 million. You made a Harry Potter film, and there aren't that many of you guys. It's Christopher Nolan, Steven Spielberg. I wonder, would Hollywood pray for you to just do a Gravity every 3 years or so and guarantee an enormous amount of money?
Well, remember, Children of Men was a financial flop. Okay, so it goes like that. And I tell you, I've been in that kind of prison. When your films, they don't perform, it's more difficult to make a new
movie jail.
I've been lucky lately, in which now my films are performing. And I hope they will keep on performing just because I want to keep on making the films I want to do. What happens when one film doesn't perform is that then in the Hollywood industry is that then is more difficult to put together your own film. Maybe it's easier to get like an offer of somebody else's material and stuff,
Sure.
you know. But even when that's the case, I was in another prison before Y Tu Mamá También, and actually I was about to start doing one of those films that they have offered me when I said, okay, guys, I cannot do this, and I went to Mexico to do Y Tu Mamá También.
Yeah, and Y Tu Mamá También is kind of the film where you reclaimed your cinematic soul or something, or your purpose?
Well, yeah, because I think that I have lost my way, like working like for a few years in Hollywood, and I lost my way. And part of that is that, you know, they told me it was very difficult to do your own material, that I should be just available.
Please just be part of the machine.
Of the machine, exactly. And I played that game for a little bit, and then I forgot that, and I was trying to get very unhappy, and I forgot that I could write. And then I reclaimed, and among other things, some love that I have that is for writing for films. So, and also, I completely have lost my way in which, or maybe I was just learning. That I consider those few early films more like a learning experience, to try to find my voice of which films were closer to who I was or I am, and when I went to do Y Tu Mamá También, I told Chivo. Chivo again is Lubeski, just for clarification. The cinematographer I have collaborated in most of my films. I said, Chivo, let's do a film the way we have done it before going to film school, before you knew that there are kind of rules and ways of doing things. Let's just go with complete innocence. And that was the result, and I think that result informed pretty much the rest of my career. I reclaimed pretty much something that is more connected to if you an European kind of tradition, if you might.
Mm-hmm. But have you managed to maintain even just a soupçon of that innocence, even when you've got Sandra Bullock in space?
You have to maintain that, and part of the reason in that was more than that, because that film we didn't really know how to do it. We bullshit our way through it. You know, we kept on saying, yes, we know how to do this. But the technology didn't exist. So we were just experimenting and hoping that it will come okay. And actually, we didn't know that it was going to work until pretty much 1 month before it was premiered, because it was when all the technology came together. Mm-hmm. You know, before that, it was just bits and pieces. So much that before that, the studios, they test the films, and it tested terribly. Nobody liked it. The studio was very disappointed and supportive, but very disappointed.
Sure.
And it was like, okay, finish the film and let's move on. And yeah, and you never know.
Are you as interested in middle age and getting older?
Y Tu Mamá También is the transition between the teenage years into the early adulthood. That's the transition, that's threshold, you know. And in many ways, Harry Potter is a transition between the childhood into the early teenage years. But no, yes, I definitely I want to explore something. Yeah, I mean, the more that you live, the more that you get into certain experiences, even though there are certain things that they are permanent throughout your whole life. even if those experiences, they change shape and they change also the masks that we wear to cover them. I'm talking about the certain experience, like the feeling of loneliness. The feeling of longing. I mean, there are many things that we all share, not only as humanity, but as throughout all our lives. And the interesting thing is how the mechanism that we employ to try to if not to hide them, to endure with them.
Sure.
Ultimately, probably the only antidote for that is love. But even love, is can be tainted by that.
I mean, speaking of endurance, I was kind of mind blown to see that Children of Men is nearly 20 years old. But in that, the start of that, Clive Owen's character is an alcoholic, or maybe he's just a depressed guy who drinks too much, but he's somebody who is shutting out the reality of the world. He's decided to be passive, decided to just kind of float through it in a sad malaise. That's his coping mechanism. I wonder if, as somebody who made a film that was so focused on kind of, the environment and the challenges facing humanity, problems that have not gone away, I wonder if ever you choose to be like Clive Owen in that film and just lower your gaze from the problems in the world.
We all do that. Yeah. We all do that all the time. I mean, and even more now more so that we're bombarded by with all this information in our telephones and just the air, is full of information all the time, and some people take solace in writing an angry response in their Twitter or Instagram
or the comments beneath
TikTok
this video
or whatever, then it's like the part of that engaging in that, but you're not engaging, you're just giving like your opinion that is more about you. It's not about the outside. We all have, and that's what I'm saying. We need to cope with that, with not only with the environment and the outside and all the stuff that happen in the world, but with ourselves, and with the mystery that is life and existence, and that's what I mean about these things that permeate us since we were born and probably
Sure.
until we're dead, and it remains a mystery. That is these ways in which we have to cope with that existence. If you think about that, the concept of existence is the weirdest thing in planet Earth or in the universe. It's like not even the planet Earth, but it's and yes, in films like in Y Tu Mamá También, these kids are in a bubble. That carries a bubble. Whole universe is happening outside that they're oblivious. They are so immersed in their little thing, and even inside the bubble, they have other coping mechanisms to hide from the others or to hide their insecurities and so on. But I think humanity is like that, and that's what makes it so funny, but at the same time so poignant and so sad at times.
I mean, you made a short documentary, The Possibility of Hope, which came out, I believe, on the original DVD release.
Yes, that's correct.
Children of Men.
There was not much hope in that.
It was incredibly hopeless.
There was not much possibility.
It was just Slavoj Zizek telling us we're screwed. But it is a film. That's a short documentary which is trying to grapple with some practical but existential concerns. And as you say, a lot of your cinematic work is talking about what's happening internally. But I wonder if you've ever felt the urge to, or the potential that your artistic work could help in some way if you pointed the lens outside of the individual and into, the practical problems.
The thing of the practical problems is that they are transient. Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, of course, there are if you're talking about more political, I mean, also political is very personal. You're just reflecting that part of yourself, and you're reflecting your understanding in the world, and that understanding one more time is the way that you choose to cope with that reality, and no matter what, if right, left, or whatever, it's a way of coping and understanding the whole thing. Some ways of coping, you can make the case that are fairer than others, but still are ways of coping, But I don't know if films can help in that sense. I'm going to be a bit more drastic. I don't think that science can help. Is I think that in any words, because the core of everything is a whole human attitude towards things. And humans, we have shown that there's a immense capability for change, and that's a hope. When that change is guided properly, because we also have an amazing capability for adapting onto a certain level. That it has its limit, but we have an amazing capability of adapting. And sometimes also that is part of the problem. We have adapted in 20 years to this new world that in the last 25 years they have been drastically more different than any other transformation that happened since registered history in hundreds of years. So, and I'm not talking only a technological one, I'm talking more of almost like an ontological one, the way in which we, again, perceive reality. And that's, and I think that that's part of also of all that circle of motivations.
I'm always interested when I meet an artist whose work has been canonized to a certain degree, if there's a moment where you feel like you start seeing your own influence out in the world. Have you, do you watch other movies now and go, oh, they like my films?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell like that. I mean, you can recognize traits here and there, but they tend to be more of a formal or technical aspect of it.
Sure.
You can say, oh, look, there's an action scene, and now they're using just one shot deal. Fair, great. The thing is, for me, like all of that stuff, when it's about that, is like, look, mama, no hands. Look what I can do. For me, the interesting thing of cinema is when that technique, that form, that style, as Hitchcock used to call it, is what is part of a language. That is an eloquent language that has its own rules inside each film. When it's just used for the purpose of achieving an effect, then it can be highly entertaining, but sometimes you say, okay, what was the point of doing it?
Sure.
What is the point of doing it just one shot? There's and you can read or listen to some of the masters that they have done. From the masters they have done, because I adore as well doing the editing language, the montage, and And you can hear the masters also that they talk about montage, talking about from Eisenstein and Griffith and so on in the early days until you go into the American film in the 70s and the Thelma Schulmakers of nowadays and stuff. But when you hear about one shots, you can hear, like I'm introducing here in Locarno, a film I adore by Alan Tanner. It's called Jonas, who will be 25 years in the year 2000. And talking about Jonas, Tanner is very specific talking about the one-shot deal. Mm-hmm. And it has to do with time more than anything else. You know, and the flow of a moment in time. And that's what is more important in a one-shot deal. Is how time you partake in a slice of time. You know, and the problem that I see, and it's fantastic. I enjoy seeing them. Actually, I saw. I think it was an Asian film that it was all one shot.
Oh yeah,
it's so much fun. You know, so much fun and stuff. But it's the opposite. That could have been by cuts, and I would have as much fun.
Sure. Yeah,
you know, because what the effect is giving you, that is killing time. So, you know, like, okay, it's great, the exercise. The calisthenics are great. But it doesn't, in terms of language, I don't know if it was necessary. Could have done that same film with some cuts or more cuts, or, you know, it would have been as fun. You know what I mean?
Totally. I could watch Rope with editing.
Rope with editing?
Yeah, that would be great.
I know I wouldn't be able.
So,
I tell you, that's the reason
then.
why Hitchcock was so unhappy about it. Because in a way it worked, but it's against what he wants.
Okay.
He was, and when I'm talking about time, because cinema is the fundament of time. What Hitchcock used to do was to manipulate the expansion and the contraction of that time. I mean, no reason he theorized so much about suspense, because you can have a fast pace and be filled with the sense and the dread of time. You know, time has nothing to do with if you do cuts of if it's long shots. It's about a filmmaker with the awareness that the language of cinema is time.